Okay. After successfully logging into the system using new user accounts, let's consider another scenario in which one of the users who recently joined the organization has decided to move on and resign from the organization. This is a very typical scenario which IT departments have to deal with. As part of their offboarding process, this outgoing user will need to be unregistered from the network domain, and we will need to make sure all the logins and permissions for this user have been revoked so that he or she cannot access any network resource anymore. So the way you can unregister the user is in one of two ways. You can either disable their account or you can delete their account from the domain outright. The industry best practice is to disable the account at least for a short period of time and retain the user ID. This is helpful if after the user's departure, some files or resources tied to that user ID need to be retrieved. After the initial waiting period has expired, it is generally considered safe to clean up the account and delete it from the domain. Let's look at the steps for using deregistration in detail. Let's head back to the Windows Domain Controller server. And here is the Active Directory Users and Computers Management Console. Let us assume that Linux.user1 is the user who has resigned from the organization and needs to be removed from the directory. We will use the recommended practice of disabling this user account rather than deleting them outright. Let's find the user which is present in our Linux OU. Here it is. Select this user, Linux.user1, and right-click on it. Click on Disable submenu to disable it. And now you will notice there is a down arrow icon shown on this user, implying the disabling of the account was successful. Now that this account has been disabled, let's try to log into the Linux host using this user's credentials. Let's switch to the Linux host. Select Others. In the username, type tetranoodle /linux.user1. Click on Login, provide the password, and click on Login again. And now you will notice we get an authentication failure error, which was expected. This is because the Linux.user1 account has already been disabled. Let's go back to the Windows Domain Controller server and enable the account again. Right-click on the account and select Enable Account. Now verify whether you are able to log in again. Switch back to the Linux host. Select Others. In the username, type tetranoodle /linux.user1. Click on Login. Provide the password and click on Login again. And it may take a few moments for this user to be authenticated. After a while, finally, this user is able to successfully log into the Linux system. So you see how you can control the status of the domain accounts from a central location and have it affect across your network on Windows and Linux hosts as well. Now let's log out of this host and switch to the Windows Domain Controller. Let's assume the necessary waiting period has expired and we are ready to delete the user account of this user. Right-click and from the menu, click on Delete to delete the account. Click on Yes to confirm your intent to delete the account. Now you can see the account is no longer listed here in the list of users. Let's switch to the Linux system and try to log in using the user's credentials. Select Others. In the username, type tetranoodle /linux.user1. Click on Login, provide the password, and click on Login again. You will get an authentication failure, which is again expected because the user account has already been deleted. This means the system is not able to identify the deleted user in our domain. So that is how the user registration and deregistration process works for Windows Domain. And you also witnessed how this process affects all the network users and hosts which are part of the Windows Domain. Let's recap what you learned in this module. First and foremost, you walked through the detailed process of registering new domain users and verifying whether you could log into the Linux host using these users' credentials. And then you followed the reverse process as well, of deregistering the users from your domain and verifying that you can no longer log in as an unregistered user. Stay tuned for the next module, where we will discuss network password policies.